This conference will now be recorded.
Fine. Let me go and open the course content. Try to understand this. From today onwards, from today onwards, we'll start discussing about the power apps. Now, see, in today's session, we'll give some brief introduction to what is this power apps. So, in today's session, we'll discuss about at a high level what is this power apps, what is this connectors. We'll discuss about the different types of creating the apps. There are three ways you can go and create the apps. One is canvas, model driven apps, and portal apps. And next one is what is this canvas app, you'll understand. What is this model driven apps, you'll understand. What's the difference between the canvas and model driven apps, when to go and use the canvas apps, when to go and use the model driven apps. And also we'll discuss how to go and open the power apps. Up to here we'll discuss now in today's session. In today's session we'll give some introduction to power apps. Let me go and open my notepad. Let me keep here what is the agenda for today's session is. The agenda for today's session is introduction to power apps. The agenda for today's session is introduction to power apps. Now in today's session, what we are going to understand here is, we'll understand the first point here is, we'll understand what is power apps. We'll understand what is power apps. Just 1 second, online people. Fine. Sorry for the disturbance. Suffering with some throat irritation. Please adjust for today's session, guys. I'm not able to speak that much loud. And now see, the second point we are going to discuss here is who will use the who will use the power apps software. We'll understand these 2 points now in today's session. We'll understand here what is power apps first, and then we'll understand who will use the power apps software, and also we'll understand what are the different ways where we can go and create the apps within the power apps. First, let me go and keep here what is meant by power apps, guys. Already we discussed in simple in the demo session. I said that power apps is what? Power apps is used to create the apps or forms within the power platform. Within the power platform, if you want to go and create the apps or forms, you need to go and use which software? Power app software. Let me go and keep that point here. Power apps is an apps or a form development software in the power platform. Within the power platform, power apps is the app or form development software. This is the general guess what the power apps will do within the power platform. And now see what is the actual definition power apps is. As we know that power apps is used to create the apps. Let me go and keep here what is the actual definition is. Power apps is used to create the apps or forms which is used to collect the data from the customers, which is used to collect the data from the customers, comma, once after collecting the data we need to store that data in the data sources, collect the data from the customers, comma, submits the data to the data sources. So as we know that within the Power Apps, we know that how to go and create a form in the apps, and then we know that how to enter the data in that forms, that is customers how to enter the data. Once after collecting the data, we need to submit that data to the data sources. What is the data source we are using here? SharePoint. Now not only to collect the data, not only to submit the data, submit the data to the data sources, come on, come on, it is used to display the data that is stored in the data sources, that is stored in the data sources. Now whatever the data that is stored in the data sources, through power apps, you are able to go and display that data again in the Power Apps. So Power Apps is used to collect the data from the customers, submits that data to the data sources, come on, displays that data that is stored in the data sources, and also use it to work with the data, and also use it to work with the data that is stored in the data sources. And also, once the data is displayed in the Power Apps, if you want to go and work with the data, you are able to work. Working with the data is nothing but what case. If you have some data in the data source, I want to display that data in the Power Apps. Once of displaying the data, I need to go and work with the data. Working the data is nothing but inserting the new data, updating the old data, and removing the unwanted data. Working with the data means whatever the data that is there in the data sources, we are able to display that data in the Power Apps. Once of the display, if you want to modify that data, if you want to delete that data, if you want to do any changes in that existing data, you are able to do it. So that one will call it as what? Work with the data. So this is what the actual definition, what the Power Apps can do. What the Power Apps can do here is, Power Apps is used to create an app or a forms which is used to collect the data from the customers. Once after collecting the data, it will goes and submits that data to the data sources. Once after submitting the data, if you want to go and display that data that is stored in the data sources in Power Apps, yes, you can go and display the data. Once after displaying the data, if you want to go and work with the data means, yes, you are able to go and work with the data in the Power Apps. So this is what the actual definition of Power Apps guys. If you see, if you go to the block diagram or an architecture of Power Platform, let me go and open the architecture. What I'm telling here is, in the Power Platform architecture, what's the first thing where the work will start? Business application process will start from developing the front end applications. So one of the front application we need to go and create here is what means apps. Now in order to go and create the apps, what is the software we are using within the Power Platform to create the apps is, the software we are using here is Power Apps is the software. Now by using the Power App software, we are able to go and create the apps and forms within the apps. Once after creating the apps or forms, we are able to collect the data from the customers in those forms, or by using the Power Apps, whatever the data the customers are entering, we are able to submit that data to the data sources. What is the data source I'm using here? SharePoint is my data source. Once after submitting the customer's data into the data sources, if you want to go and display this data again in the Power Apps, yes, you are able to go and display that data again in the Power Apps. Once after displaying the data, if you want to go and work with the data, if you want to go and work with the data, you are able to work. Working with the data means what? Modifying the data, removing the data in the data sources, and if you want to insert some new data, you are able to insert it. So this is what the complete what is meant by Power Apps guys. Whatever I kept here, whatever the definition I'm keeping here, the same thing I'm explaining here in this block diagram. And next the next point you need to understand. Okay, now try to understand guys. I'm telling that collect the data from the customers, and then what we need to do, we need to go and submit that data to the data sources. Now see, if you want to submit the data to the data sources, first of all, you need to go and connect to the data sources from Power Apps. From Power Apps, you need to connect to what? Data source. What is the data source I want to connect here? SharePoint. Now before, if you want to go and submit the data to the data sources, whatever the data we are collecting from the customers, to submit that data to the data sources, first we need to go and connect to the data sources from Power Apps. Now if you want to connect to the data sources from Power Apps, you need to have something called connectors guys. There is something called what? Connectors. So what is the use of this connectors means? Connectors are used to connect to the data sources from where? from Power Apps. From Power Apps, if you want to connect to any data source, whether it is a Dataverse, whether it is SQL, SharePoint, I said that Power Apps can support how many data sources? Around 600 plus data sources. If you want to connect to the data sources from Power Apps, you need to have something called connectors. So with the help of the connectors, we are able to connect to the data sources from Power Apps. And with the help of that connectors only, we are able to submit the data to the data sources. Let me go and keep that point here. If you want to go and submit the data to the data sources, first of all, you need to connect to these data sources. To connect to the data sources, what we need to have? Connectors. Let me let me go and keep here what is meant by connectors, guys. Now see what's meant by connectors means. Connectors are used to connectors are used to connect to the data sources from the Power Apps. From Power Apps, if you want to connect to the data sources, we need to have something called connectors. What is with the help of these connectors, we are able to go and submit the data to the data sources. So these connectors will plays a major role, guys. Just by creating the app, you are not able to go and work with the apps. Whatever the app you are creating, you need to connect that app to the data sources. If you want to connect to the app to the data sources, we need to have what? Connectors. Connectors use it for what? To connect to the data sources from Power Apps. And now see, I said that how many data sources the Power Apps can support. Already we know that the Power Apps can support around 600 plus data sources. Here, if you see in the architecture, I'm keeping only 3 data sources. One is Dataverse, SQL Server, and SharePoint. But actually, how many data sources the Power Apps can support is Power Apps can support around 600 plus data sources. Guys. Let me go and keep that point here. Power Apps can connect to the Power Apps can connect to the different types of data sources, different types of data sources, different types of data sources. Now, how many data sources it can support means it can support around 600 plus data sources it can support. Here I'm listing only few guys. These are the most commonly used data sources: Dataverse, SQL Server, SharePoint, and some there is something called Salesforce. So these are the commonly used data sources. But around how many data sources the Power Apps can connect means 600 plus data sources it can connect. This is what is meant by Power Apps, guys. We know that what is meant by Power Apps, what the Power Apps can do. By using Power Apps, what we are going to do. And to connect to the data sources from Power Apps, you need to have what? Something called connectors. We know that what is the use of these connectors, and totally Power Apps can support how many data sources. This is what is meant by this Power Apps definition. And next, we need to understand who will use this Power Apps software. Who will use this Power Apps software? Now try to understand who will use the Power Apps software means. If there is any company, if there is any company, what the companies will do? The companies are going to do some business. If the company is doing some business, before going to start their business, the companies need to go and create some applications for their business. Now, what type of applications they need to build? Let us say, if you take any company, guys, let us take Amazon. Amazon is doing some business. What business? E-commerce business. Now, Amazon is need to develop some applications, guys. They need to go and create one website, and also they need to go and create an app for the Amazon apps they need to create. And also, if you take an ICICI, ICICI is also doing some business, that is banking business. As we know that it is doing the banking business. If the ICICI is doing the banking business, ICICI also need to go and create what? One website. Also, they need to go and create what? Some apps they need to go and create. Like this, if you take any company, whatever the company it is, any company, if you take even for AB trainings also will have a website, and we need to go, if you want, we can go and create some apps also. Now see, as we know that if there is some companies, that companies need to go and create some applications. That applications is nothing but creating the websites and creating the apps. Now see, most of the customers prefer to use the apps instead of going and using the websites. If you see, most of the customers nowadays, they are not going and using the websites, guys. They want to go and use the apps here. So the companies, any company starting the business means, no doubt nowadays that companies are creating the apps. For whom? for the customers, to attract the more number of customers, to provide the flexibility to the customers to order any products in the online. So the companies need to go and create, what means the companies need to go and create some apps or some forms. Now if the company need to go and create the apps or a forms, then that company need to use one software. So if the company wants to create an app, means they need to buy one software. Now what is software nowadays the companies are using in order to go and create the apps? Means the companies are using the Power Apps software. Now who will use the Power Apps? Means who will use this Power Apps? Means any company, if they are doing some business. So if they want to start the business, first of all they need to go and create some applications. One of the application we are going to create here is what? Apps for the organizations. So if you want to create the apps or forms for the organizations, you need to go and use one software. What is software the companies are using nowadays to go and create the apps? Here is Power Apps is the software. Okay, I'm telling that nowadays the companies are using the Power App software in order to go and create the apps. But now you need to understand one point. Why only Power Apps? Why the companies need to go and only Power App software in order to go and create the apps? There are different softwares will be there to go and create the websites and to go and create the apps. Instead of going and using those softwares, why the companies are preferred to use this Power Apps? Means let me use case, let me give one scenario. Let us say let us say why the companies are using the Power Apps? Means the first advantage here is, if you want to create an app, let's say if you want to create an app for any organization in a traditional approach, in a traditional way, in a traditional approach, if you want to create the apps, means it will take some time, it will take more time. Traditional approach means by writing some programming. Traditional approach is nothing but what? By writing some programmings, by writing some code, we are going to create the apps or forms or websites. You are able to go and create the websites in the traditional way. Let us say one of the software we are using here is Java. With the help of Java, we are able to create the websites, we are able to create the apps. Not only Java case, you can use the Java, you can use the C Sharp, you can use the .NET, you can go and use the Python. There are a number of softwares in the market which is used to go and develop the front end applications. Now among all those front end applications, why we need to go and use only Power Apps? Means why the companies are preferred to create the apps using the Power Apps is, if you see, if you want to create an app in a traditional approach, let's say by using Java, to create the app you need to go and write some thousands of lines of code, guys. No doubt you need to write number of lines, thousands of lines of code you need to go and write to create an app. And also if you want to create an app by using the traditional approach, either any one of the programming language, let's say Java, the it will take some 1 or 2 years case. Let us say the company is taking 2 years time to complete that project. To complete the project in a traditional way with the help of Java, the companies are taking some 2 years of time to complete that project. But and also here it is cost effective. It is also cost effective. If you are hiring one Java developer, the client need to pay more amount to the developer. They need to pay some huge amounts to the client or to the employees. So in order to go and overcome this problem, nowadays the companies are using what? Means Power Apps. If you go and use the Power Apps, whatever the app you are creating by using Java in 2 years, you can go and create the same app with the help of Power Apps in less than 1 year. In less than 1 year, at least 7 to 8 to 10 months max. In less than 1 year, you are able to create the same app with the help of Power Apps software. And also this Power Apps is not cost effective, guys. Any company can bear it. Even small scale companies also, they can bear this licensing cost. It is cheaper in cost. So that is the reason why nowadays most of the business organizers or companies prefer to create the apps in where? Power Apps only. If you are doing some business, what you will do, always you will try to get more profits. And also by developing the applications also, I will choose the softwares where I can get the app or a website with less time, and also with by spending some less amount. So by using which software we can go and create the apps in less time? Means Power Apps. By using which software we can pay less amount to the softwares? Means Power Apps. If you use the Power Apps, it is less cost. If you go and use Java, you need to pay more amount to them. So that is the reason why the companies nowadays, from last 2 years onwards, companies are preferred to create the apps in Power Apps software. So this is what is meant by Power Apps and who will use the Power Apps software. Let me go and keep that point here. Nowadays, companies will create the apps or forms. We'll create the apps or forms by using the Power Apps software. Nowadays, most of the companies are preferred to create the apps by using software is Power Apps software. Now, we know that what is the definition of Power Apps. We know that who will use the Power Apps software. Now, how to go and create the apps within the Power Apps. The next point you need to understand what? How we need to go and create the apps within the Power Apps. Now see, there are different ways you can go and create the apps in the Power Apps guys. Let me go and keep here types of apps or types of Power Apps. Types of apps. Now there are different types of apps you can go and create within the Power Apps. One is Canvas apps. One is what? Canvas apps. Second is what? Model driven apps. One is Canvas. Second one is model driven apps. Now what is this Canvas apps? What is this model driven apps? When to go and use the Canvas? When to go and use the model driven? And what is the differences between the Canvas apps and model driven apps? Let me go and explain this. First, let me go and discuss about what is this Canvas apps. First, we'll discuss about what is this Canvas apps. Let me keep here. What is the functionality of this Canvas apps is? Canvas apps, Canvas apps is used to Canvas apps is used to let me keep it as build. Canvas apps is used to build the apps or forms from the blank screen. So what is this Canvas apps means? Canvas apps is used to build the apps or forms from the blank screen. Blank screen means from the scratch. From the scratch, if you want to start creating the apps, then in this case you need to go and use what? Canvas apps. And also one more point, Canvas apps, Canvas apps is used to build the apps, build the apps or forms based on the user experience, based on the user experience. So Canvas apps will allows the developers. Let me go and keep here. Canvas apps will allows. Let me keep in this way. Canvas app will allows the developers will allows the developers to build the apps based on the user experience. Based on the user experience, if you want to create the apps, then go and use what? Canvas apps. Now see, I'm having some clients right here. Amazon, let us say I want to create an app for Amazon. Now Amazon is readily come up with templates. So what are how many screens they want to keep in that app? What is the design of each screen? What options you want to show in that screen? So Amazon is my client. Amazon is coming with some predefined templates. In the first screen what they want to show, second screen what they want to show, third screen what they want to show, like this. Let's say they want to create in that app, they are expecting 20 screens. In all the 20 screens, what design they are expecting, they are coming with some predefined template. So based on the client requirement, based on the user experience, who is my user here? Amazon is my client. Based on my user experience, whatever the design they are expecting, I want to create the apps based on the user experience. Whenever if you want to go and create the apps based on the user experience, then you need to go and use what? Canvas app. Why we can go and create the apps based on the user experience from the Canvas apps means, I already said that Canvas apps can create the apps from where? From blank. From the scratch, you are able to go and create the apps. If you are creating the apps from the scratch means, then you are able to go and build the apps based on the user experience. And also next point you need to understand, Power App, this Canvas apps can connect to how many data sources? Already said that Power Apps can connect to how many data sources? 600 plus data sources. In the same way, this Canvas also, this Canvas, this Canvas apps can connect to the different types of data sources around 600 plus data sources. This is what is this Canvas apps guys. Canvas apps is used to create the apps from the scratch. and also from the blank screen, and it will allows the developers to create the apps based on the user experience. And also this canvas app can connect to how many data sources means around 600 plus data sources it can connect. And next, what is this model driven app? First let me keep here what the canvas and what's the model, and next I will show you what's the difference between these two, when to go and use the canvas and when to go and use the model driven. Now see, the second one I'm going to discuss here is model driven apps. Now try to understand what is the use of this model driven apps means. Model driven apps are used to build the apps build the apps for the or build the admin related apps, guys. Build the admin related apps for the back office team for the back office team. What is the use of this model driven apps means? Model driven apps are used to create the or used to build the admin related apps for the back office team. Now see, if you take any company, guys, any company, let us take Amazon is there. Now do you think that Amazon will have only one app? We know that Amazon is having one app. What is the app you are able to see in your mobile phone? Do you think that Amazon is having only one app for the whole organization? No, the companies won't have only one app, guys. The companies will have the multiple apps. Let us say, for the user perspective, to show the whatever the items they are ordering, whatever the items they are selling, to show the items to the customers, they are creating an app for the customers. Whatever the app you are able to see in your mobile phone, that is for the customers. You are able to see all the product details, whatever the products the Amazon is selling, all the product details you are able to see in the customer related app. That is the customer related app, which is whichever you are seeing in your mobile phones. And also they are going to create another app for the back office team. Back office team means those who are working in the Amazon. Let us say, if anybody, if let us say one of the customer is there. First let me keep here, this is for back office team. Now try to understand, yes, when to go and use this back office team means, let's say if there is one customer, the customer ordered the product. Now the customer is not received the product on time. Whatever the delivery date they are providing, the customer is not received that product on that day. Now what the customer will do? They will call to the customer support. They will call to the support team, and they will ask, the customer will ask one question. This is the product I ordered. This is the date it need to be delivered. I haven't received the product still. There is no any update for that product. Can you give me any, what is the reason the product is not delivered today? So what the customer support will do? Customer support team will go to where? Customer support also will have some other apps. That what is that app? Back office team. So people, those who are working as a customer support, for those people Amazon is going to create a some other app. So in that app they clearly understand why the product is not delivered on the particular date and time. Maybe whatever the reason it is, in the back office they are able to find out that reasons. So the customer support team can go to this back office team app. They understand why the product is not delivered to the customer, and they will give some proper reason to the customers. So this is the reason why the product is not delivered. Sorry for the delay. We'll process your order. It will take around 2 to 3 days. Now you will receive the product. So this is for the back office team. And also Imagine is having another one more app. So if you're ordering one product means, who will deliver that product to you? There is one delivery person, is the delivery agent. Now whatever the app the delivery person is using, that app is back office team app or the customer's app means, no. For the delivery persons there will be some other app. For delivery agent there will be some other app called, some apps will be there. So like this, if there is any organizations won't have only one single app. Organization will maintain the multiple apps. One app for the users, one app for the employees, those who are working in the organization. And here Amazon is there, they will go and create another app for the delivery agent. So like this, if there is any organization, that organizations will create the multiple apps here, guys. Now what is this model driven apps means? Model driven apps are used to go and create the back office team related apps. Back office means those who are working as a customer support, or those who are working within the organizations, employees, those who are working in the Amazon. So let me go and keep here one of the example. Model driven apps are used to build the admin related apps for the back office team. One of the example is HR recruitment process. One of the example is HR recruitment process, and another example is employee onboarding process. HR recruitment and employee onboarding process. Now see, this employee recruitment process and employee onboarding, these are the two back office apps I'm going to create. If you see, if there is any company, let's say Infosys is there, Infosys wants to hire the employees, there are some openings is there, so directly the Infosys will hire the employees whoever they want? No, there is some process will be there. So if the employee is selected, HR round is completed, interview is cleared, then the next process is what? Onboarding process. So there is some process will be involved. So this model driven apps are used to create the apps for the back office team who will follow some process. Who will follow the process? Customers won't follow the process. People, those who are working in that company, back office team will follow the process. Now see, what is that process here is, let us say HR recruitment process case. What is the first filter condition they will keep here is, first of all, they will shortlist the students. Let us say they want to hire the students, those who have the percentages that is greater than 70. People, those who have the percentage greater than 70 in the academics, that is in the graduation, those people only they are going to take for the interviews. This is the first process in the HR recruitment process. What's the first process? Filtering the students. Which students having marks greater than 70%, those students only they will go and take for the interviews. Once after this, they will conduct the rounds case, interview rounds. Maybe there are 3 rounds will be there. Let us take round one. Let us take round one. In the round one, they will ask some technical questions, they will keep some test. And also in the round one, once after keeping the test of people, those who have the percentage that is greater than 70 percentage in the test, those students only will be qualified for the second round. People, those who got the 70 percentage in the first technical test, those students only will be qualified for the round two. Now in the round two also they will conduct another one more test. Now in this test, people, those who got 80 percentage of marks, that means in the test who got the 80 percentage, those students only promote to the next round. What's the next round is? HR round. What's the next round is? HR round. Now in the HR round, the HR will offer some salary. As it is a fresher, they will offer some 9 lakhs. Now the student is satisfied with the salary, then that student is going to be processed to which? Then that student is going to be selected. Once after selecting the student, he need to go for which process? Onboarding process. If the employee is not satisfied with the salary, they are not going to be sent to the onboarding process. So if you observe here, once the employee is okay with the salary, next they will go for the onboarding process. In the onboarding process, the employee need to go and provide some details to the company. So if you observe, this complete thing is one process. It is one process or not? So people, those who are working in the organizations, that people need to follow one process. So Infosys, let us say Infosys company is there, HR is there, whoever the HR is there, that HR need to follow one process. First thing is what? Percentage that is greater than 70, those only allowed to attend the interviews. In the interviews first round, who is getting greater than 70 percentage, those students only will be qualified for the round two. In the round two also, students, those who are getting the percentage that is greater than 80, those students only will be promoted to the HR round. In the HR round, everything is cleared, then that employee or student will be promoted to the onboarding process. In the onboarding process also, there is some process. First we need to provide your educational documents, Aadhaar card, PAN card, bank details, thumb, photo, and once after passing everything, on the second day also there is some process will be there. So if you take any company, people, those who are working in the organizations, that people, back office team mainly, back office team need to go and follow one process. So if you want to go and create the apps for the admin related, that is for back office team, then in this case you need to go and create what type of apps? Model driven apps. Model driven apps, if you observe here, the company is following one process. If you want to follow one process, then in this case we need to go and create the model driven apps. But whenever if you want to create the apps based on the user experience, no process involved, just I want to go and create one app, so then in this case you need to go and use what type of apps? Canvas apps. Canvas apps is used to create the apps based on the user experience from the blank screen, whereas model driven apps are used to create the admin related apps for the back office team who can follow the one particular process. Let me go and keep that point here, guys. It is used to create the apps based on the business process. If you take any business, that business will have one process. Here Infosys is doing one business, employee recruitment. So that if the Infosys wants to recruit one employee, means they need to follow one process. So whenever if you want to go and create the apps based on the business process, means then in this case go and use what? Model driven apps. So this is what is this model driven apps, guys. And also if you observe here, I said that Canvas apps can create the apps based on what? User experience. But here it is possible to create the apps based on the user experience, means no, it is not possible. Let me go and keep that point here, guys. In the model driven apps, it is possible to go and create the apps based on the user experience, means no. Let me keep that point here. Model driven apps, or let me do one thing. Let me remove it. It is not possible. It is not possible to create. It is not possible to create the apps based on the user experience. We are not able to create the apps based on the user experience. And also see, Canvas app can connect to how many data sources? 600 plus data sources. But whereas this model driven apps can connect to how many data sources, means this model driven apps can connect to only one data source, guys. Model driven apps can connect to only one data source. What is that data source it can connect, means model driven apps can connect to the dataverse database only. Dataverse database only. This model driven apps can connect to how many data sources, means model driven apps can connect to the dataverse databases only. If you see in this architecture, there is one database, dataverse. This dataverse, what is this dataverse, means dataverse is an database software within the Power Platform. Within the Power Platform, there is one data source software. What is that data source we are using within the Power Platform, means Dataverse. So let me go and keep that point here, guys. What is this Dataverse means? What is this Dataverse is? Dataverse is an Dataverse is a database software, database software within the, or let me keep it like this, which is used to store the business data, which is used to store the business data within the Power Platform. Within the Power Platform, if you want to store your business data, what is that data source it will take? Dataverse. Dataverse will act as one database which is used to store the business data within the Power Platform. So it will act as one data source, guys. It acts as one data source. So this model driven apps, if you are creating an app for the back office team where we need to go follow some process, that apps can be created by using which data source, means only it will connect to the data sources. Now see, this dataverse is cost effective, guys. In Power Platform, what's the most cost effective, means Dataverse is the most cost effective. That is the reason why nowadays the companies are not going and using the Dataverse. Most of the companies are using some other databases, and they are preferred to go and create the apps by using Canvas apps. If they go and use this model run apps to create the apps, means then mandatory they need to go and use the data source is what? Dataverse. So it is not possible to go and connect to the some other databases if you go and create an app in the model driven apps. This is the second what is the differences between this Canvas and model driven apps, means the first difference is Canvas app can connect to the different types of data sources, whereas model driven apps can connect to only to the Dataverse databases only. And second difference is Canvas app is able to go and create the apps based on the user experience. But model driven apps, it is not possible to create the apps based on the user experience. There are some predefined components will be there. In the model driven apps, there are some predefined components will be there. With the help of those predefined components, we need to go and create the apps here. Let me go and keep that point here. We can create the apps. We can create the apps by using some predefined by using some predefined components. There are some predefined components is there. With the help of those predefined components only, we are able to go and create the model driven apps. If you want to create the app based on the user experience, means no, it is not possible to create. There are some predefined components will be there. We need to just make use of them. That means this model driven apps is a component focused approach to create the apps. Let me keep that point here, guys. Model driven apps, what it is, a component focused, it's a component focused approach, is a component focused approach to create the apps. There are some predefined components will be there. You need to go and just make use of them. If you want to create the app based on the user experience, no, it is not possible. So this is the another difference. So what is the difference between Canvas and model means? Another difference is here you are able to create the apps based on the user experience, but here it is not possible. There are some predefined components will be there. We need to go and just make use of them. And one more difference is, now see, whatever the apps you are creating in the Canvas apps, this apps is not more responsive, guys. Whatever the apps we are creating in the Canvas, these are not responsive. We need to make them as responsive. Let me go and keep that point here. By default, by default, the Canvas, the Canvas apps is not responsive. Is not responsive. Responsive means performance is not going to be increased. We need to make it as responsive. But whereas coming to the model driven apps, by default, model driven apps are by default model driven apps are more responsive or more responsive. These are also responsive, but these are less responsive. Yes, let me keep here. These are less responsive. So we need to make it as more responsive. But here, whatever the apps you are creating with the help of model driven app, these are more responsive. This is the another difference. In the interviews, you'll get these questions, guys. What is the Canvas? What is meant by model driven apps? What is the difference between the Canvas? What is the difference between the model driven apps? When to go and use the Canvas app and when to go and use the model driven apps. And next, finally, what is the main use of this model driven apps means? Model driven apps are used to model driven apps are used to work with the complex apps, guys, or work with the complex data. Let me keep here. Model driven apps are used for what? To work with the complex data. Complex data means maintaining the data, come on, maintaining the data, come on, modeling the data, modeling the data, come on, processing the data, come on, processing the data. So are used to model driven apps are used to work with the complex data sets or a data. So complex data sets, how we are going to work here is maintaining the data. Maintenance is nothing but inserting the new data, updating the data, modifying the data, giving the permissions, canceling the permissions, storing the data in one secured place. This is comes under the maintenance. Modeling means creating the relationships between the tables. Let's say if you have some tables, let's say EMP table is there, departments table is there, one more table, let's say I'm having the projects table is there. There is one company, that company is having the employees table, that company is having the departments table, there are multiple departments is there, and also that company is having some projects tables, how many projects the companies are working with. Now Here I want to go and create the relationship between the tables. I want to create the relationship between the EMP and DEPT, and I want to create the relationship between the EMP and projects. Why? I want to understand which employee is working under which project, and also I want to understand which employee is working under which project. So you need to create the relationships. Creating the relationships is nothing but what means model the data. If you want to model the data, then in this case, most of the cases we'll go and use the model run apps. And also process the data. Process the data is nothing but what? If you see, I said that model driven apps are used for what? It is used to create the apps for business process. Now see, if you take the recruitment process, what's the first condition? I want to shortlist the students, those whose percentage is greater than 70. This is one process or not? So I want to go to the next step. When? If it is satisfying this condition, then only I want to move to the next step. If I complete the first step, then go for second step, that is round one. In the round one, if the student is satisfying that condition greater than 70 percentage, then only move to what? Second round. So there is some process will be there. If you want to process your data, process the data means if you are satisfying that, if you can go and define some conditions. By default you will define some conditions based on your business process. If the data is satisfying that condition, then only it will move for the next process. If it is not satisfied the condition you are defining, it doesn't move to the next process. So this is what the mainly use of model driven apps is. Model driven apps are used to work with the complex data. Like working with the complex data means maintaining the data, modeling the data, and processing the. This is all about what is this model driven apps and what is this canvas app. Important points. No doubt you'll get a question in the interviews. What is power apps? What is the two types of apps you can is there? You can create is canvas and model driven app. When to go and use the canvas, when to go and use the model driven apps, what is the difference between the canvas, what is the difference between the model driven apps? These are most important points. No doubt you'll get a question in the interviews. Fine. So this is all about some introduction to power apps. So along with this, already we know that how to go and open the power apps. How to open the power apps? Yes, how to go and open the power apps. In order to go and open the power apps, directly you can go and use the make.powerapps.com, or you can go and use what? Office.com. Let me go and open the power apps now with the help of this too. First, let me go and use the make.powerapps.com. When I go with the make.powerapps.com, now it is going to open the power apps software. And if you want to open the power apps by using the office.com, yes, go to the office.com, and in the search bar here, in the search bar, go and search for what? Power apps. You can search here for power apps. Just click on it. When I click on it, now also it is going to open the power apps now. Now once after opening the power apps, this is the UI. This is the UI. Now here, if you want to create the apps, go to where? Create tab. When I go and click on the create tab, now it will allow us to create one app. Let me go and click on this blank app. Now you see, you can create the apps here. Blank canvas app. And next one is what? Build app based on the data hours. So what type of app it is? Model driven apps. And there is something power pages. It is not to create the apps. It is used to create the websites, organizational websites. It is not required. So either you can go and select the canvas, or you can go and select the model driven. Most of the companies nowadays they are using what means canvas. Once if you go and click on the canvas, it will tries to open an app. Let me open any one app. Once after create, whenever if you create an app, once after passing the app name, it will open the canvas where you can go and create the apps. So let it open. Now this is the canvas case. So this is the place or area where we need to go and create the apps now. Now in the next tomorrow's class, we'll be discussing the UI here. What is the UI for canvas apps? So there are different paints will be there. So this is one paint, this is one paint, this is another paint, different paints will be there. So what is the UI for canvas apps? I'll be discussing the UI in the tomorrow's class. User interface. What is the user interface for power apps? What are the different types of paints is there? What is the use of each paint? We'll be discussing in the tomorrow's class. Fine. Let me stop here today. We'll be discussing from here in tomorrow's class. Now go with the questions.